Surrounded by the sounds of nature, the ambient stillness, whispering creeks, one might assume we're deep in the mountains, miles from anything. Not right in the heart of Seattle.
We're in the Longfellow Creek watershed. So the volunteers today are removing some invasive plants, mainly blackberry and ivy, that have been introduced and growing in this site for quite some time.
Seattle is renowned for its greenery, the verdant landscapes and mild climate of the Northwest, but to reap the benefits of the natural world in an urban environment, it must be protected.
I think that there's been an increasing awareness of how many things urban natural areas still do for our ecosystem. They're stressed by climate change and human uses around them. They're introduced plants and have stressed the plants that are there.
The Delridge Neighborhood Development Association does forest restoration like this in a dozen natural areas, volunteer days, protecting and improving the wild spaces of this city, one aspect in particular.
I learned today about the tree canopy and just understanding that how we are letting the native tree grows to create that canopy. I mean, that feels, the work that we are doing will contribute to that, feels really good.
That tree canopy has been a growing concern for urban foresters in recent years. Tree cover in the city provides a myriad of benefits: climate change resilience, cleaner air, cleaner water, heat protection, lower asthma rates, the list goes on. And the cover is shrinking. The city of Seattle conducted a study comparing aerial scans from 2016 to 2021 and found we lost 255 acres of tree cover during that time, a decline of 1.7%, approximately the surface area of Green Lake.
While it's disappointing that we're backsliding, it's really good information because the city's been investing a lot in our urban forestry, care, management, regulation, policies around management of our urban forest. And we know now that that's not enough. It kept us from backsliding even further, and there are areas that we did grow canopy, and canopy's getting more plentiful and healthy. That loss is not happening equitably across the city.
Patty Backer is the Urban Forestry Policy Advisor for the city's Office of Sustainability and Environment. She says armed with this data, they are working towards the goal of 30% canopy across the city set back in 2007. It's currently 28.1%, and they want to make sure that growth is equitably distributed as neighborhoods with fewer trees like Rainier Beach have suffered disparate impacts of extreme heat in recent years.
So there's decades of various processes, including redlining, lack of investment in these neighborhoods. What canopy they had has not been protected and maintained and retained. There hasn't been investment to restore that and bring canopy back up in those neighborhoods.
Part of the way they plan to do that is collaborating on tree equity with the state, which was announced in April. Another is a new tree ordinance, which is not without controversy. It lowers the threshold of what makes a tree exceptional from 30 to 24 inches in diameter, protecting an additional 60,000 trees from being cut down without mitigation by city estimates, with other rules for smaller trees. But opponents have claimed it's at odds with the goal of creating housing, believing that it could raise construction costs, though the Master Builders Association supported it in the end. Still, other critics believe it won't really protect trees from developers.
The ordinance will protect some trees on private property. However, it really opens up the gates to more cutting of significant and exceptional trees that we really need during this time of climate crisis. I think it's going to be very detrimental to public health. I also think that while we're protecting some trees on private property, it can sort of negatively impact homeowners that are already struggling to stay within the city.
In order to achieve our climate justice goals, we need both housing and trees. We can achieve both. It's a false narrative to say it's either housing or trees. We can achieve both through good policy, good practices, and this ordinance gets at that. In finding that balance and allowing flexibilities for developers to develop the new housing that is needed, while protecting, retaining, or mitigating for and replanting trees elsewhere as they develop the housing project.
But in the meantime, crews take the active task of protecting the trees we already have, like this SDOT team prepping for the Mariners to host the All-Star Game.
So right now he's just checking what 14 feet over the road looks like. That's our clearance that we have to hit.
And helping those impacted by damage and disease, like this parks crew.
So we tend to see the sickest patients. We see prevalence of disease throughout the canopies. Dutch elm disease is pervasive across the country, and that's always taking a few each year. And then we're having bronze birch borer.
The ongoing dance to coexist with nature in an urban environment.
If we don't do the clearances that are required on these trees, trucks that end up hitting these branches that get torn down and causing a lot of damage to the tree that could have been mitigated.
One thing is clear, established healthy trees change a space for the better, both aesthetically and through the many human health benefits, especially as we look to the future and the growing impacts of a changing climate.
So you can see behind me here we have some fairly large, well-established conifers. There are a lot of natural areas around Seattle that don't have large established conifers. They lack a lot of the habitat and ecological values that large coniferous forests can provide. Both of these sites are getting conifers planted, depending on climate and depending on the health and progress of the restoration at this site. We hope that they'll continue to grow and be able to be major parts of the canopy in decades to come.
Watch CityStream Tuesday nights at 7 on the Seattle channel, or find us anytime online at seattle.gov.